For today, we will be having measures of central tendency for group data. Now, to begin with, let's have a review first on the different measures of central tendency. Now, I will be giving you situations, and you tell me whether I will be using the mean, the median, or the mode. Which of them among the three is the most appropriate to use to answer each question? Now, let's start with this one. How well did Terizla perform in his math quiz? How will you answer this? Are you going to answer this using the mean, the median, or the mode? Again, this talks about scores in a math quiz. So how will you get the central value if you are having quizzes or grades? You will be using what? You will be using the mean for this. That's correct. So I will be using the mean for this one. Okay? Now let's have another one. What is the average age of those who watched the movie Jumanji? Again, what is the average age of those who watched the movie Jumanji? Are you going to use the mean, the median, or the mode? Yes? What's your answer? What are you going to use here? How will you answer the question? What measure of central tendency are you going to use? Yes, Wilbert. Why mean? Sige, why do you want to use mean here? Take note ha, just like what I said a while ago yesterday, that doesn't mean if the word average is there, it means right away mean. So take note, when you say average, naman say median, we also have the mode. So for this one, when you say average age of those who watch the movie Jumanji, this is just like rephrasing the question in this manner. Asa may daghang nananaw nga age sa mga viewers aning movie nga Jumanji? So which among the three are you gonna use? The B is the middle value. Ang akong question is, asa ang daghan nga moviegoers ani nga age? Diba, yesterday when I asked you asa ang daghan, it talks about the mode. So for this one, I will be using the mode for that. Because I will be tallying. Magtally ko sa mga age anang mga moviegoers. After determining the tally, I'm gonna get the frequency. Like for example, the moviegoers nga age is 16 years old, mao'y daghan kaayong nananaw. So, I'm simply using the mode to answer the question. Okay? Now let's continue. What was the blockbuster movie of 2019? I gave this example yesterday. So what was the blockbuster movie of 2019? You will be using still the mode for this. When I say blockbuster, the number of movie goers. How many persons watched the movie that it made it a blockbuster movie? Okay? Next. Who is the leading presidential candidate in the latest survey? Again, leading presidential candidate. This talks about, again, the same, the mode. Kay kung kinsa tong daghan kay voters, mo to'y makadaog as president. And it talks about the mode. Okay? Next. What is the average salary of a Filipino family? I gave this example yesterday, but it was in the form of a restaurant. But this time, it's a typical Filipino family this time. Average salary. So, okay, we will be using the median for this. What about the average shoe size being sold at Alpha's Shoe Mart? We had this already yesterday about shoe sizes. The mode. We will be using the mode for this. Next, what is the average grade of Estes during the third grading period? Talks about the grades now. So the grades, I'm going to be using the mean for that. Okay. What about Leomord's average weight for the past 10 months? So I'll be adding the weights of Leomord for the past 10 months and divided by 10. So what is the process? What was the process I was doing a while ago? It's simply the mean. Okay, it's the mean. And lastly, what is the average income of the employees in Granger's restaurant? That will be median. Okay? So that's it. Those are just simple scenarios wherein the most appropriate measure of central tendency is being used. Now this time, let's proceed to the mean of group data. This will be our formula. Okay? So our formula will be this one. Take a look at that formula. This is the symbol for the mean. F is the frequency of the class. X is the class midpoint. N is the sample size or the total frequency. Okay? Now, don't worry. We will go over the formula as we go on with our examples. Let's have the steps first. Step number 1. You add 2 columns to the right of the frequency distribution table. 1 column for the class midpoint and 1 column for the product of the frequency and the class midpoint. That's step number 1. We will do that later as we go on with our first example. Step number 2. The class midpoint is simply the mean of the lower limit and the upper limit of that interval. Step 3. Complete the 4th column by multiplying the frequency and the class midpoint. Step 4. Add all the entries in the FX column. Step 5. Add all the frequencies. That will be the total frequency. That's your N. And lastly, solve for the mean using the formula. Now let's have this example. So we have here a frequency distribution table. This is an example of a frequency distribution table. These are what you call the class limits. Meaning, the table shows the scores of students in a math quiz. Find the mean score. So meaning, 13 to 15 nga score na ay tulo ka estudyante who got 13 to 15. 11 students got a score of 16 to 18. We don't know which among the 3 scores, 16 ba, 17 ba, 18 ba. The important thing there is we know that 11 students got a score from 16 to 18. Same thing with 14 students got a score of 19 to 21. 7 students got a score of 22 to 24. 5 students got a score of 25 to 27. So this is an example of a frequency distribution table. And we will be finding the mean score here. Let's start with step number 1. Diba step number 1, you add 2 columns. Column for midpoint and a column for FX. That's what I did over here. Step number 2, solve the midpoint. How do you solve the midpoint? Look at the class limit. You add 13 and 15. So to get the midpoint, that's 13 plus 15, divide it by 2. Now, what is 13 plus 15? That will give you 28. 28 divided by 2 will give you 14. So the midpoint is simply 14. Okay? There you go. What about in our second class limit? What is 16 plus 18? You have here 16 plus 18 divided by 2. How much do you get for this? You will get 17 for that. The same thing with the third class limit. We will be adding 19 plus 21 divided by 2, and you will get 20 for that. Same thing with the next class limit. 22 plus 24 divided by 2, you will get 23 for that. Same thing with 25 to 27. You add 25 and 27, divide the sum by 2, you will get 26. So that's how you get the midpoint. Next, let us now multiply f and x to get fx. So what is 3 times 14? You will get 42 for that. For the second one, 11 times 17, you will get 187 for that. And for the third one, that's 14 times 20, that's 280. Fourth, you have 7 times 23, that's 161. And lastly, you have 5 and 26, that's 130. The next step is simply you add all of these, kining 42, 187, 280, 161, and 130. You add all of those, you will be getting 800 for that. And we will be having this symbol here, the sum of fx, the summation of fx. That's 800. So after getting the sum of fx, you also add the frequencies, 3, 11, 14, 7, and 5. You get the sum, and that will be your n. Okay? Now, going to the formula now, what is the summation of f of x? It's 800. What is the value of n? It's 40. Or substitute everything in the formula. 800 divided by 40. So our mean is simply 20. Is our first example clear? Okay, let's continue. Let's have our second example. So this time, the data represent the ages of women. Just disregard that. That's not ages of women. Those are just information lang ha. Ato lang ning i-disregard. Tang-tang lang na. Just simply data about ages. Okay? Just disregard that. So data represents the ages and a scenario. Okay? Find the mean of the given data. So take note, this is our frequency. This is our frequency distribution table over here. So let's solve now. The first step is to write 2 columns for the midpoint and fx. What's the next step here? Find the midpoint. How do you solve the midpoint? You add. And how much is that? 50 plus 54, 104 divided by 2 is how much? 52. So the midpoint for 50 to 54 is 52. What about 55 to 59? What's the midpoint there? 55 plus 59 divided by 2. 57. That's correct. What about our third class interval? Class limit na to, 60 to 64. I-add ng 60, 62. Okay, next. 65 plus 69 divided by 2. 67. Next, 70 plus 74 divided by 2. 72. Correct. What about 75 plus 79 divided by 2? 77. Next thing to do is multiply f and x. What is 3 times 52? 156. 6 times 57. 342. 5 times 62. 310. 6 times 67. 402. 8 times 72. 576. And lastly, 2 times 77. Okay, now what is the next thing to do? Okay, add all of these. Add all the fx to get how much? Use your calculator now. Add all the fx there. Okay, 1,940. So if you will be adding these numbers here, kini, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, you will be getting this sum here, 1,940. After getting the sum of fx, what are you going to do next? Add the frequency. So what is the total frequency here? 30. So n is equal to 30. Substitute everything in our formula. What is the summation of fx equal to? Okay, substitute na din ha. What about our n? Substitute ni n. So it becomes 1,940 divided by 30. How much is that? 2 decimal places. Round off. 64.67. So that is your mean, because the answer in your calculator is 64.6666, so on and so forth. And I said 2 decimal places. So ang sunod aning 6 is 6, so it's greater than 5. You add 1 for that. That becomes 0.67. Okay? Let's have another example over here. So, making use of this one, the first midpoint is 13. That's 11 plus 16 divided by 2 is 13. What is the next midpoint? 16 plus 20 divided by 2. 18. The next midpoint, for the third class limit. 23. Next. 28. Correct. 31 plus 35 divided by 2 is how much? That's 33. What about 36 plus 40 divided by 2? That's 38. 41 plus 45 divided by 2. 43. And lastly, 46 plus 50 divided by 2. 48. Now, the next thing to do is multiply f and x. Okay? What's 3 times 13? 39. 6 times 18. 108. And 6 times 23 is 138. What about 3 times 28? 84. 2 times 33, 66. 4 times 38, 152. 3 times 43, 129. 3 times 48. Okay, and the next thing to do is add the fx. Oh, how much is the sum there? The sum is equal to 860. And after getting the sum of fx, what else do you need to get to do? Add the frequencies. How much is that? 30 ang frequency. Oh, substitute everything in our formula. So that will become 860 divided by 30. The mean is 28.67. So that is how you get the mean of a group data. Are there any questions about solving the mean? Okay, now this time, let's go to the median. The median of a group data. This will be our formula. So this will be the symbol for the median. Over here. L is the lower boundary of the median class. So take note of that. The lower boundary of the median class. I will be talking about the median class later on as we go on with the examples. N is the total frequency. CF, that's not crossfire, that is cumulative frequency of a class interval that precedes the median class. And F here is the frequency. I is the class size. Later on, you'll understand what those things mean as we go on with the examples. Now let's have our first example. Find the median for this. So these are scores of students in the math test, okay? Now, the first step is simply add one column to the left of the F frequency distribution table for the class boundaries. Add another column to the right. You call that cumulative frequency. So take note, I added 2 columns. One column for the class boundary and another column for the cumulative frequency. Next, let's fill up the class boundary. It's so simple. What is 11 minus 0.5? 11 minus 0.5. How much is that? That is 10.5. What is 15 plus 0.5? O mo no ibutang na ako. That's the thing that I'll be writing in the class boundary. 10.5 to 15.5. And that came from our class interval. So what will be the next class boundary over here? O minusan og 0.5 plusan og 0.5. What are you gonna write over here? Correct. 15.5 to 20.5. So on with the other examples with the rest of the class boundaries. Okay? Next, let us now fill in the cumulative frequency. To fill in the cumulative frequency, let's start with the topmost frequency. You write it down over here. That's 3. Then 3 plus 6 is how much? Oh, you write it here. That's 9. 9 plus 6 is 15. 15 plus 3, 18. 18 plus 2, 20. 20 plus 4, 24. 24 plus 3, 27 plus 3, Okay. And take note, this is also your N. Okay? So take note, that's how you fill up the CF, or the cumulative frequency. Step number 4, determine the median class. This is now what I'm talking about a while ago. How do you determine the median class? It's so simple. You will be using N over 2. You already know what N is. Pili value sa N nato? 30. So you know that N is 30. So using the formula, N over 2, that's 30 over 2, you will get 15. Now, kung saan man na ako si 15, sir, what am I gonna do with that? You locate the 15th entry by checking the CF. So, kanang 15, add to na sa CF tanawon. So, look at this one. When I say CF, kini siyang 3, nagpasabot na 1, 2, og 3. Kini siyang number 9, unsa may sunod aning 3? 4. 4 to 9. Sunod, 10 to 15. Sunod, 16 to 18. Now, asa man makit-an si 15? Naa siya diri makit-an? Dire. Okay? Kay maong man ni siya ang 10 to 15. So, if ever na, example, ang result na ko diri, for example, ang result dira kay 17, asa man ang CF nga gamito nako? What if the result when I divided this is 17? Which CF does it belong to? 18, because 18 means 16 to 18. Ang 17 na aman ng 16 to 18. You get my point here? What if the CF is, example, 8? Which CF are you? Yes, you will be using 9 for that. Correct. Okay? Now, if this will be our CF, 15 over here, so this is now the median class. Kanang 21 to 25. Kay dira man ako makit-an ang 15. So, our 15th entry belongs to the third class interval. That is 21 to 25. So, take note of that. This is our median class over here. Kini ako gi-encirculan. That will be the median class. And that will be the reference for finding the L, the CF, the F, and the I. Let's start with the L first. How do you solve the L? It's so simple. O, kini siya, that's your L. Okay? 20.5 is your L. How do you get the CF? The CF is simply the CF of the median class before it. O, unsa may number before 15? 9. O, mao nang 9 akong CF. Sa CF ko magtanaw. Okay? Sa CF, ang number nga before or lower than 15 is the number 9. So, that's the CF there. What is the frequency of the median class? 6. That's the frequency. The class interval, by the way, this is our N. You already know that. And the class interval is 5. My question is this. Why is the class interval 5? If you will be listing the numbers 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, how many numbers do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 numbers. Another way of solving the interval is simple. Kini ay, what is 36 minus 31? Oh, that's your I. Or pwede po, sir, kini sir, 20 minus 15. 16 minus 11. 35 minus, basta babaw ug ubos ang inyong i-minus. Is that clear? Okay, let's continue. So, substituting everything in the formula, you will have this one. This is our lower limit. We identified this a while ago. Maunay lower limit sa atong example. Ganiha. Okay? And our n is 30 over 2. Our CF is 9. Our F is 6. Our class interval is 5. So, divide this first. Then, minusan og 9. You'll get. And then, the answer is 25.5. Okay? Now, I will be presenting another way of solving this without using a very long table. Okay, the first thing to do, let us solve the CF. Sorry for that. Let's solve the CF first. So, ano to pag-solve the CF? Start with 3. 3 plus 6. 9. 9 plus 5. 14 plus 6. 20 plus 8. 28 plus 2. So take note, this is your n also. So we now have an n, so okay na si n dire. Okay? Now, let's solve the median class first. So ang problema ani is ang median class. So using n over 2, so you have 30 divided by 2, you will get 15. Now, where is 15 found in the CF? Again, ang technique ani is the first number greater than 15 in the CF. What's the first number there greater than 15? 20. Therefore, this is our median class. Kini 65 to 69. So, let us now determine L. Ang L is so simple. Kini siya, ang L is simply 65 minus 0.5. So, focus ta on the median class. So, what's 65 minus 0.5? 64.5. We already know what n is. N is equal to 15. Oh no, 30, sorry. What about CF? No. 14. Okay, this is the CF. The CF before the median class. This is the CF now. So our CF is 14. What about the interval? I-minus na. I-minus 5. What about the frequency? 6. Okay, substitute everything to the formula. So this becomes the lower limit. That's 64.5 plus, you already know what is n over 2? 15. Minus the CF is 14. Over F, the F here is 6. Times nato ni interval is 5. Okay, this is now 64.5 plus, this is 1 over 6 times 5. Now, this becomes how much? This is 64.5 plus 5 over 6. Now, what is 5 over 6? 5 divided by 6. 2 decimal places lang. Okay. Now, what is 64.5 plus 0.83? 65.33. This is now the median. Is our second example clear? Let's have another example para mas maklaro nato. Okay? Now let's solve the CF. What are you going to write here? 2. 2 plus 7, 9. 9 plus 14, 23. 23 plus 8, 31 plus 8, 39 plus 1. So take note, nanatay n. Our n is equal to 40. Okay, let's have the median class first. The median class. That's n over 2, 40 over 2. You will get 20. Where is 20 found in the CF? The first number greater than 20. Okay, so our CF is 23. Therefore, the median class is this. Dirita mo refer. This will be the reference for the median class. You got the idea now, section Zircon? Okay, let's start with the L. The lower limit. Oh, that is 26 minus 0.5. That is 25.5. Okay, let's have our N. You already know what N is. That's 40. What about the CF? The C before 23. What's the CF before? Okay, 9. Very good. 9. What about the F? 14. What about the I? 5. Oh, let's use the formula. The median is now the lower limit, that's 25.5, plus, what's n over 2? 20. How much is the CF? 9. Our frequency? 14 times the interval? 5. So this is now 25.5 plus, this is 11 over 14 times 5. So this becomes 25.5 plus 55 over 14. Now, what is 55 divided by 14? What is 55 divided by 14? That would give you 3.93. 3.93 plus 25.5. Okay, that's 29.43. This is the approximation for the median. Is the median clear now? Okay, now let's go to the mode. The mode of group data, this is the simplest to compute, I tell you. Okay, so we have here the formula. So this is our symbol for mode, that's X sub MO, the mode. D1 is the difference between the frequency of the modal class and the frequency of the interval before the modal class. D2 is the difference between the frequency of the modal class and the frequency of the interval after the modal class. I is the class size. We will dig deeper on the formula with our first example. So find the mode of this data set. The first step is add a column for the class boundaries. Pwede ra jud na siya delaying ana. Next, determine the modal class. Look at the frequency. What is the highest frequency? Oh, that's the highest frequency. Therefore, this is the modal class. This will be our reference later when we do solving. Okay? So, simple na kayong pagpangita sa modal class. Look at the highest frequency. That's the modal class. Okay? Next. So, this time, this is our modal class. This one. To get the D1, L sa ta. L is this. That's your L. To get D1, what is 13 minus 10? Mao na D1 na ako. To get D2, 13 minus 9. That will be my D sub 2. And I will substitute that in our formula. Pilay I na to. What is the value of I? 5. Correct. Okay? Substituting everything in the formula. That's our formula. Solving that, it will give you 28.64. Now, let's have another one. Okay? I will not be adding class boundaries there. Right away, I will determine the modal class. What is the highest frequency? So this is the modal class. This is the modal class. Okay? So, next thing to do, solve to ni D1. I-minus na. 2. I-minus ang 8 ug 2. Mo na D1 and D2 na ako. Pila ang class interval? 5. Now, what is the value of L? Look at 70. Ang L nako kay 70 minus 0.5. Do not forget all the time. Mag-minus ta always sa atoang lower class limit. Sa atong lower class limit, ang 70. You will get how much? Okay, substitute everything in the formula. L is 69.5 plus the D1 is 2. The D1 plus D2, that's 2 plus 6 times the interval, which is 5. So, calculating everything, 69.5 plus i-multiply na nako, that's 10 over 8. Now, what is 10 divided by 8? What is 10 divided by 8? 1.25. Now, what is 69.5 plus 1.25? 70.75. So, this is the mode. Is this clear? Section Zircon, is this clear? Okay. Let's go to another last example for today. The mode. What is the highest frequency? Okay, so therefore, this is the modal class. Let's solve L. How do you solve L? 26. Very good. Minus 0.5. How much is that? Okay, 25.5. D1. Pilay D1 ako. 7. What about D2? 6. What about the interval? 5. Let's have this one now. Let's solve the mode now. So the lower limit, that's 25.5, plus the D1 is 7. That's 7 plus 6 times the interval So this is now 25.5 plus, i-multiply na, that's 35. I-add ni, this is 13. What is 35 divided by 13? How much? 2 point? Okay, you add 2.69 and 25.5. 28.19. This is now our mode. Now, to check whether your answers are correct, it's so simple. Look at our values here. I'm gonna show you, because this is now the end of our... I'm gonna keep this first. Look at the values here. Look at the values in our computation. 29.19 is located, di ba that's makita na siya sa 26 to 30? So, sakto atong mode. Kay kung, if this value here, makita nimo sa others intervals, there's something wrong with your answer. Look at our mode here. It's 70.75. That value is seen between these two values. Same thing here. Look at our median. Our median, this is Dara. 29.43. Di ba 29.43 is found between 26 to 30? So that's how you check whether your answer is right. Your answer should be between the median class. 65.33. It's between 65 and 65.